Good morning, traders. I'm Emily Ivani, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Thursday, June 5th. Stocks are coming off a mixed but ultimately muted session after all three major indices traded close to flat yesterday. The Nasdaq and the S&P 500 ended in the green. The Nasdaq added 61 points or 0.32%. The S&P 500 was able to hang on to a gain of less than 1 point. The Dow closed out regular trading in the red off 91 points or about 0.25%. Bill, let's get into today's action with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Yes, absolutely. Listen, we got to look at the S&Ps. The S&Ps are up almost about 0.1%, up 0.08. Okay. I mean, there's a number of important economic announcements coming out today. Like the first one, obviously, is the ECB. There's an ECB meeting going on, and they're going to be making an announcement at 8:15 a.m. this morning, where it's expected that they're going to lower the interest rate by 25 basis points to a nominal rate of 2%. Okay, you also have the trade imbalance numbers coming out today. You also have jobless claims coming out today. Those could be interesting. President Trump, he's going to be meeting with German Chancellor Merz today. Listen, he's not going to be discussing the negotiations over the tariffs. They'll touch on tariffs and trade relations, but I think they're mostly going to be talking about NATO and Ukraine, things like that. The Senate is preparing to make major changes to that reconciliation bill, includes funding for a border wall, but that's the same border wall that Mexico is going to pay for, which now we're funding. Kimberly-Clark, KMB, they're nearing a sale of its tissue business. Looks like they're selling to a Brazilian firm. On the earnings front, we got Land's End, MDB, and Five Below all trading higher after their earnings report. After the bell today, you got AVGO, AVGO, that's Broadcom. You got Lululemon, you got DocuSign, DOCU. They're all going to be releasing earnings. Looking over at Europe, hey, you look at the DAX. The DAX is higher by 0.26% or 62 points. You had some upbeat factory data and expectations for the rate cut by the ECB that's helping. The FTSE is higher by 0.18%. Energy financial shares are trading a little higher. That's good. France, the CAC is up 0.28%. Seen some strength in technology, basic materials, and consumer sectors. But really they're muted. These are muted gains because they're waiting for that ECB announcement, which is coming shortly. Turning our attention over to Asia, and in Asia, the Nikkei fell, is about 0.5% or 192 points. There was weakness was really attributed to underperformance in the auto sector. Trade data showed Japan's export grew at the slowest pace in 7 months, with exports to the U.S. falling for the first time in 4 months. Due to weaker demand for automobiles, steels, and chips. The weak dollar means strengthening yen. That's not good for Japanese equities either. But it's not horrible. It's kind of a muted loss over there. But then you turn your attention over to Hong Kong, the Hang Seng, which gained 252 points. That's 1.07%. That's the third gain in a row, and the rally was really led by the tech sector. And then you look at China. China was up 0.23%. That Caxton services PMI rose to 51.1 in May from 50.7 in April. So that's positive. And then you turn your attention over to oil, and oil is showing gains this morning. You got WTI at $63.08 a barrel. You got Brent at $65.13 a barrel. EIA data yesterday showed that inventories fell by 4.3 million barrels for the week ending May 30th. That's positive for oil prices. Saudi Arabia did a smaller than expected price cut for July crude exports to Asia. You got to remember there's going to be increased expectations for demand during the summer driving season. But that's what I have for you in terms of morning market update report.
Bill, as you told us at the beginning of the week, we were going to be watching out for a number of economic events and indicators throughout the week. And you did point to that ECB meeting today. We're going to get to more of all of those economic events in just a moment. But before we get there, we will turn to earnings action. You gave us a little bit of a preview in your opening. So let's dive in. Bill, what is going on in terms of earnings action?
Got to start with PVH, Paul Victor Henry, the retailer. Listen, they beat by 5 cents. They did it on higher revenue, but their guidance was horrible. PVH is down 9% this morning to $73.40. Yeah, we kind of expected this. Five Below, on the other hand, they delivered a beat of 3 cents, and they did it on higher revenue. Five Below is up 8% this morning, so that's positive. After the bell today, you got Lululemon, ticker LULU. Their EPS is $2.58. Expected move is 9.35%. You got Broadcom, AVGO, Apple Victor Grace Oscar. Their EPS is $1.57. Expected move is 6.99%. So that's positive, and that's what I have for you in terms of earnings update, Emily.
Now we will get to those economic events, a number of reports to watch, the ECB meeting, and some Fed speak. So let's dive in, Bill. What is going on in terms of the day's economic events?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you got to start with the ECB meeting at 8:15 a.m. this morning. The ECB is going to be announcing an update to its monetary policy. That could cause a little bit of fuel for the markets today because it is expected that they're going to deliver a rate cut. 8:30 a.m. You get the you get the figures on international trades and goods and services trade deficit. Also at 8:30 you get jobless claims coming out. In terms of the jobless claims data, I mean, it's expected to come in with a reading of 236K, which is slightly lower than last week's revised figure, which was 240K. The moving average remains around 230,000. So as long as it's in that neighborhood, it's okay. In terms of Fed speak today, you got Adriana Krugler. She's going to be speaking at noon today. At 1:30 p.m., you're going to be hearing from Philadelphia Fed Bank President Patrick Harker. Who else is speaking is Kansas City Fed Bank President Jeffrey Schmidt. He's going to be speaking also at 1:30 today. But that's what I have for you in terms of an economic update, Emily.
And Bill, you're going to be watching all of those earnings reports, those economic reports, and the Fed speak using your NewsWare, gathering that information as it comes out. Each morning, you're also looking at things like merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, buyback news. You're gathering information about the FANG stocks group together and the Dow stocks group together so you can really track trends on the trading day. So, Bill, what else do you see as possibly moving the markets today?
Just doing a quick data check. I'm looking at my Dow stocks. I got 8 lower, 2 unchanged, 20 higher. I'm looking at my FANG stocks. There's weakness again in Tesla. There's a slight weakness in Apple, but everything else is trading higher. That's kind of positive. Apple, court yesterday afternoon denied Apple's stay request for regarding payment for royalties in that Epic case for Epic Games. Amazon, this is interesting. Amazon, it's trading higher by 0.8% this morning, but apparently Amazon's going to start testing humanoid robots for package delivery with the eventual goal to have robots come out of a Rivian van. It's interesting. Meta Platforms, Meta's trading a little higher this morning. Meta's courting Hollywood to search for exclusive content for premium for its virtual reality headset, which it plans to release next year. I guess this is a new version of it. What else do we got? Dow Jones 30s. We got to talk Boeing, ticker BA. Boeing's trading higher this morning. Boeing agreed to pay $1.1 billion to avoid prosecution for the 737 MAX plane crashes. Wow, that's by avoiding prosecution, that really lowers the bar. So that price tag is really a big coupon for them. So that's actually very positive for shares of Boeing, ticker BA. Procter & Gamble, ticker PG, they're doing job cuts. So is Citibank. I saw Citibank's doing some job cuts too. Let's talk Apple again for a second. First off, Worldwide Developers Conference. That starts next week. That starts on June 9th. And they may be announcing some new AirPods at this event, but we'll see. Don't expect anything huge, but the call volume still remains positive in Apple going into that event. In terms of merger news, KMB still looking positive on that deal. It looks like it's going to be not a deal to sell it. It's going to be more of a structured deal where it's a partnership deal with that Brazilian firm. But they're divesting their tissues business a little bit. In terms of guidance news, Five Below, ticker FIVE, they see Q2 adjusted EPS coming in 50 cents to 62 cents. Street estimate is 58 cents. Okay. But PVH, they see Q2 EPS coming in $1.85 to $2. Now the street had it at $2.46. That's a big downtick. That's why you see the stock get smoked today. In terms of shareholders meetings, there's a lot of shareholders meetings going on today. Walmart, for example, they're having one at 9:30 WMT. Palantir, PLTR, they're having a shareholders meeting at 10 a.m. Salesforce.com, they're having a shareholders meeting at 2 p.m. And Netflix is having a shareholders meeting today at 6 p.m. Something to keep an eye on. In terms of buyback news going on, MDB, Michael David MongoDB, they're increasing their share repurchasing program by 800 million to 1 billion. That's cool. And that's what I see in terms of news in the tape this morning, Emily.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. It is now that time of the show for the Trade Talk pick of the day. Bill, what do you have for us on this Thursday?
I'm going to keep with the earnings plays. AVGO, Broadcom, ticker AVGO, Apple, Victor, Grace, Oscar. Earnings are due out after the bell. EPS is $1.57. Expected move is 6.99%. You look at yesterday's call volume, 179,000 versus 125,000. That's positive. Open interest is essentially flat. I mean, 1,071 on the call side. Versus 1 million on the put side. So, it's flat. I mean, they got this new Tomahawk switch, which is really going to be a hot product for them, especially with the AI data centers. That could really help the guidance. But in terms of an entry price, I'm thinking 260 is kind of where my head's at. I don't think it's, right now you're looking at the stock at 262.5 to 262.70. I think we could see some weakness middle of the day. But I do like Broadcom, 260, I'll say 261, I guess, 260, to 261 type, somewhere around there. And the major brokers are still positive. They're raising price targets on the stock, so I do like it. But my pick of the day is Broadcom, ticker AVGO, Apple, Victor, Grace, Oscar at a 260 entry price.
Keeping pace there, Bill, with your earnings plays and, looking at these specific entry points, it has served your pick of the day strategy well over the last few days. And coming up, we will see if the streak kept going yesterday with your pick of the day. But ahead of that, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our hot off the press segment. Bill, sending it back to you.
SoftBank, Solar Bank to acquire Bitcoin. That's nothing. SUUN. Victoria's Secrets, remember that they're announcing a new date for their earnings, which is going to be Wednesday, June 11th. Remember, they kind of pre-announced a little bit, but they had to push it back because of the security issue that they had, the SCO. U.S. restricts student visa for foreign students at Harvard. United Airlines and Spotify are announcing a collaboration. That's interesting. Fastenal, ticker FASAT, they announced that net sales were up 4.3%. Speaking of the net sales, let's talk about Costco for a second, COST. I mean, the stock's trading lower, but, they reported May comparable sales were up 4.3%. Now this sales growth is slowing at Costco. It is slowing due to the tariffs, but, it's still positive. Humana, ticker HUM, they're going to be there to back the curbs on Medicare Advantage care billing practices. GILD, Gilead, ticker, GILD, Grace India, Larry David. They're on watch ahead of this FDA announcement over a twice yearly injection to prevent HIV. That could be interesting. Nvidia, DVA, they're having a shareholders meeting today at noon. Citibank took out 3,500 jobs in China. U.S. auto suppliers say immediate action needed on China's rare earth restrictions. Uber and DoorDash, they settled a lawsuit against New York City over law capping how much they can charge restaurants for delivering meals. That's all I'm seeing this morning, Emily.
Okay, Bill, before we dive into trading on this Thursday, let's do that check in on yesterday's pick of the day, which was Sienna. They did release earnings this morning. They reported a Q2 adjusted EPS of 42 cents. That was 10 cents below the consensus of 52. They reported a Q2 revenue of $1.13 billion versus the consensus of $1.09 billion. When you sift through the earnings reports, it does look like the earnings miss appeared to be driven by higher than expected costs. Now, it did pop this morning shortly after earnings, but yesterday also had a good run. You were looking at this one yesterday. You had a specific entry point. How did your call work out?
And, hey, if we're trading into it, you're dealing with the expectations of positive anticipation of a positive earnings report, and expectations are always positive. And yeah, it worked out. I mean, because look at the stock. I mean, it opened up, it opened up at 84.67, $84.67. Then it fell down to $83.24. And I was thinking, 83.50. So yeah, it definitely was there. And then it ran, to 86.62. And, this morning it did trade 88, but, your 1% was there yesterday during the day. They did swing to a 2Q to profit, and they did post higher sales as AI demand, driven by AI demand. So it wasn't it wasn't horrible, but they did deliver a miss. But you know what? We had it yesterday. We knew the anticipation was going to really create some momentum in the stock and push it higher on the day. We just need to get in at a good entry price, because your entry price is always your risk. And, at 83.50, that was a good entry price. And, sure enough, from there, it just rallied and in anticipation of the earnings. And we made our 1%. We were happy. It was a good day yesterday, Emily. Good day.
Making money on the buy there with those specific entry points and taking that gain when you see it. A solid strategy, another solid win, and we will check in with you tomorrow about today's Broadcom pick of the day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here tomorrow to end your trading week at NewsWare's Trade Talk, when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Advani, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.